Hi everyone, this video is for lesson 1.4. Our learning target today is I can recognize the verb in a sentence, ignoring things that are not verbs like infinitives and gerunds, and revising writing when the verb is not in a correct form. So please have out your Cornell notes and we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so over here in the left column, let's fill out one of our questions for today's lesson, 1.4. What is an infinitive and why should I ignore it? So an infinitive is a verb that's in that form to blank, which looks often like a verb, but is never actually functioning as that in the sentence. And it's very important because it's never actually functioning as the verb to simply ignore the infinitive. I often recommend just crossing it out if you see that. So for example, this sentence, I want to go to the game. Notice the action in this sentence is not going because I'm not actually going. I'm not going tomorrow, right? I want to go, but I'm not actually going. And so that's part of why we want to ignore that infinitive, cross it out, because it's not actually the action happening in the sentence. Rather, there's probably another verb that is actually doing that, in this case, want. Here's another example. He is trying to leave. Notice he's not actually leaving, right? He's not completing that action. He is trying to leave, but he's not actually doing that yet. So cross out to leave. Your verbs are is and trying. All right, next, when do I know if a word ending in ing is functioning as a verb? So those ing words can actually have lots of different functions and they're a little bit tricky. So they are not always verbs. That's something important to know. They can be, but not always. And so you want to pay attention to what the word is doing in the sentence. What is its function? So if you see one of those ing words, let me show you a couple examples of how they can function. Sometimes they can function as adjectives or as descriptory words. So for example here, the family has a swimming pool. This ing word swimming, in some contexts, could be a verb, but it's not in this one because it's simply describing the pool as a swimming pool. The verb is actually a linking verb has. The family has the swimming pool. Ing words can also be nouns or subjects. Sometimes you'll see those referred to as gerunds. So again, here we have swimming, that ing word, is my favorite hobby. Okay, so we see that ing word. But again, that's not actually the action that's happening in the sentence. Rather, we see the verb is, another kind of linking verb, swimming to my favorite hobby. So in this case, swimming is actually the subject. There are sometimes you will see ing words as verbs, like this example, he is swimming for 2 hours today. So here, that ing word swimming is actually the action in the sentence. He is swimming. And so we'd want to also box our helping verb is along with that. So again, be careful with those ing words. They can function in a lot of different ways. Kind of a rule of thumb that I have is there a helping verb before the ing word? In most cases, if there is, then it is functioning as a verb. If there's not a helping verb, it's probably not. So for example, that one we just looked at, he is swimming for 2 hours today. We talked about that ing word swimming. He is actually doing that action. And even if you couldn't tell that, there's that helping verb is right before it that lets us know that's all going to be part of the verb. Or down here, another example, we are going to the birthday party. So I see that ing word going. There is a helping verb before it, are. And if I think about it in terms of the action, we are actually going. That's a thing we're doing. So I'm going to box all of that as part of my verb. All right, one thing to kind of note, especially with those ing words, but also in general in sentences, is to ignore adverbs that come between a helping verb and especially an ing word. You're going to see words like always, never, often, usually, not, etc. Even if you don't know that those are adverbs, you can tell they're not verbs because number one, you know they're not one of the 23 helping verbs. And number two, you know they're not actions you can take, right? You can't always something. You can't never something. So I recommend ignoring those. For example, Jared is always talking in class. This one's a little tricky because we have our ing word, talking, and we do have a helping verb, but we've got that tricky adverb in the middle. And that's okay. These are both still going to be verbs. Jared is talking. We're just going to ignore that adverb for the sake of boxing our verb. Similarly, sometimes you'll see contractions, like I wasn't thinking clearly. So we have that ing word thinking. Really important to split up my contractions so that I can see was not, and there I find that adverb that I want to ignore. So was is my helping verb to thinking, and I'm going to ignore, oh, sorry, I went too fast. I'm going to ignore that adverb not. All right, last part of this lesson, last question over here. What is the correct form for contractions ending in of? So would've, could've, should've, those kind of words. Really important, when you split those contractions apart, they should be blank have, like would have, should have. They are never going to be like would've, should've. Sometimes it sounds like we're saying that when we're speaking informally, but this is never the correct form. So for example, we could have gone to the event. If I split that apart, it should actually be could have. I can see I have two helping verbs, could have, gone is my main verb there, to the event. Also, if you see writing that looks like this, I should have listened more closely. You want to make sure to fix that should have. It's never going to be that of form. All right, you should see some practice coming on your screen. And then finally, make sure you've added to your notes, especially for problems or questions you want to go back and review or that you missed. Let me know what questions you have and decide what kind of practice you're going to do.